Alright, everyone, Assalamualaikum and Salam Sejahtera. Welcome to the week 4, and our topic for this week 4 is the international monetary system. Right, so we go to the chapter's objective. First, to discuss the role of the international monetary system in promoting international trade and investment. And second, we explain the evolution and functioning of the gold standard, and then summarize the role of the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund in the post-World War II international monetary system established at Bretton Woods. So basically, there are three objectives in these chapters. All right. So, international monetary system. The international monetary system exists because most countries have their own currencies, right? So, a means of exchange this currency is needed if business is to be conducted across national boundaries. So, as we know, every country has their own currency, have their own monetary system, and if we do inter-country business or international business, we have to we must convert our money or exchange the currency in order to ensure that the business is run smoothly. Okay, and the cost of converting foreign money into a firm's home countries is a variable critical to the profitability of international operations. So it depends on the smooth functioning of the international monetary system. So international monetary system is very important if we want a smooth transaction of this international business. Okay, so every country have their own currency, have their own monetary system. That is why you have to standardize, or you must have some sort of exchange currency rules. So this chapter is about that. Okay, so when we in this slide, actually in this topic is all about the history of the international monetary system. Alright, so we need to know the history in order for us to understand why we adopt a certain rules or regulation now because of that history. So it can be traced back in the root of silver in gold. Okay, previously in 19th century, we are adopting the gold standard. After that, the sterling gold standard entered the collapse of the gold standard. So this is the evolution of international monetary system, and this is the history. After the collapse of the gold standard, then there is another system that we call it is the Bretton Woods era, and the end of the Bretton Woods era. So this is the history of the international monetary system that we will cover in this chapter. All right, and then this is the first one. This is the first standard of international monetary, where the gold standard. The countries agree to buy or sell their paper, their currency in exchange of gold on the request of any individual or firm, and allow the free export of gold and coin. So in 1821, the UK became the first country to adopt the gold standard. Alright, so this 19th century, most other important trading countries of this UK, they did the same. Alright, so however, transacting in gold was expensive. Okay, so, and then if they use the gold standard, actually they are using the fixed exchange rate system, because the gold standard effectively created a fixed exchange rate system. An exchange rate is the price of one currency in terms of second currency. So under this fixed exchange rate, the price of a given currency does not change relative to each other currency. So it's fixed. All right. There are two exchange rate system, which is fixed exchange rate, and the and we have another which is flexible exchange rate system. Okay. All right. So the next one is, okay. All right. The next one. All right, so we move on to the next. After the gold standard, then there is a sterling based gold standard. As we know, sterling is pound sterling that used by the British. Okay, and this is the most important currency from 1821 to 1918, and most firms would accept the either gold or British pound. So that's why the British pound actually is very widely used in the world because of the empire, yeah, British Empire, including we can see that the British Empire, this is the purple one is the British Empire. All right, so they are using the sterling gold based exchange when they do international business. All right, and then the collapse of the gold standard. This is the next subtopic. Due to the economic pressure of World War I, which is countries suspended pledge to buy or sell gold at a currency par value, and then again gold standard readopted in 1920s and dropped again during Great Depression. So British pound allowed to float in 1931. All right, so the value determined by supply and demand. So that is not a fixed exchange rate, that is a flexible exchange rate. So you have to remember there are two types of exchange rate. One is flexible, one is fixed rate. So flexible means we are the exchange rate, the currency is constantly changing. All right, so this is another subtopic in this chapter. After the collapse of the gold standard, there is another system. Okay, this is the Bretton Woods system. This is the new international monetary system. This one is history, yeah, everyone. Okay, we are no longer actually using this Bretton Woods system. So the goal is to build an enduring economic order that will facilitate post-war economic growth. Okay, because when we do international business, we must have a certain standard of exchange, yeah, currency exchange. All right, so Bretton Woods Agreement established two multinational institutions. If you ever heard about IMF, this is to maintain order in the international monetary system. Yeah, this is why we have the IMF. This is from the Bretton Woods meeting by countries. Okay, and the World Bank to promote general economic development. So this is what they established, yeah, during that meeting. Okay, and under the Bretton Woods Agreement, the US dollar was the only currency to be convertible to gold, and other currency will set the exchange rates relative to the dollar. All right, so they will using the US dollar to set the exchange rate. The evaluation will not to be used for competitive purposes because there is a issue. If I'm not mistaken, China, the US. The US accused China to devalue their currency to increase their export, because if the currency is lower and then the price of the product is lower the other country because of the low value of the currency. So this is the crisis happened, okay, previously. A country could not devalue its currency by more than 10% without IMF approval. So this is this is the concern of the international business. If we have weaker currency, then actually it's, yes, it is negative to the country, but at other perspective, they can sell their product or service at lower price in the other country. Okay, all right. So the role of the IMF to discipline, yeah, a fixed exchange rate put a brakes on competitive devaluation and bring stability to the world trade environment. So it is unhealthy competition if we purposely devalue our money to sell our product at lower price. So this is the role why Bretton Woods system exists. Okay, and fixed exchange rate regime impose monetary discipline on country, thereby curtailing price inflation. And flexibility, IMF ready to lend foreign currency to member to tide them over during short period of balance of payment deficit. Okay, BOP we will cover next week. Alright, so a country could devalue its currency by more than 10% with IMF approval. So we still can devalue the currency, but with the IMF approval. So there is another institution, the World Bank. Okay, and under this scheme, monetary is raised through bond sale in the international capital market, and borrower pay what the bank calls a market rate of interest, the bank cost of fund plus a margin for expenses. So under this scheme, loans go only to the poorest country, right? So the objective of the IMF, okay, remember IMF created established in the Bretton Woods system. So the objective of this IMF fund, IMF, is to promote international monetary cooperation and to facilitate the expansion and balanced growth of international trade, and to promote exchange stability, to maintain orderly exchange agreement among members, and to avoid competitive exchange depreciation. So it's the international trade is more healthy and transparent, and to assess in the establishment of multilateral system of payment, and then to give confidence to member by making the general resources of the IMF temporarily available to them, and to correct maladjustment in the balance of payment. And the last one is to shorten the duration and lessen the degree of disequilibrium in the international balance of payment of members. All right, so the membership in the IMF is open to any country that's willing to agree to rules and regulations. And as of 2008, the member is 184 member. All right, okay, so a dollar-based gold standard. All right, so this is the country agreed to pledge the value of currency to gold, okay, and US keystone of system. This is still under Bretton Woods. Adjustable pledge and function well in times of economic prosperity. However, the end of the Bretton Woods system, there are also weaknesses in that Bretton Woods system, where the likelihood, the speculative runs on the bank, because US is become the only source of liquidity necessary to expand international trade. So the people question the ability of US to meet obligations. This is as stated by the economics Triffin paradox. This is Triffin is the name of that person who question about this. And IMF created special drawings, paper gold. So finally, in 1971, yeah, from 1944, the Bretton Woods system ended, right? Because of because of the people, yeah, the people question about the ability of the US to monitor and to meet the obligation. Actually, you can read further this in our textbook, page 210. And the performance of the international monetary system since 1971. So this is the last subtopic in this chapter. What is the performance of the monetary system since 1971, since the collapse of Bretton Woods system? So up until now, most currency began to float, yeah, floating, rather than using fixed exchange rate. So the value of US fell relative to most major currency, and Group of 10 agreed to restore fixed exchange rate system with restructure rates of exchange. So international monetary system, the development of floating exchange rate system. Floating exchange rate system means the currency, it's based on the supply and demand of the currency determine its price in the world market. Okay, based on supply and demand, no longer the goal or the fixed exchange rate. So manage float. Central banks can affect supply and demand. So this is two types of how they control the floating exchange rate, and legitimized in 1976 with the Jamaica Agreement. And please read the Jamaica Agreement, because we are using that Jamaica Agreement in the international monetary system. So please read page 210 and 222 in our textbook. Alright, as a conclusion, there are two primary types of exchange rate system. One is flexible exchange rate system and the fixed exchange rate system. And after the collapse of Bretton Woods system, both types of exchange rate system are in use. No longer you are using based on gold or silver. Alright, so for further consideration, I would like to ask all of you, would you rather invest in a country that use a fixed exchange rate or flexible exchange rate? So please, you need to think of this and why you want to choose that to invest in that country. With that, thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera.